Hello, friend.
Welcome to Retaliation Resale.
Hey everybody, I'm back. Have five things that I listed that I think are kind of interesting. I listed a bunch more. I think last time I did a video, I was up to like 100 items, and now I've got 125, 126. But here's a book, The Inventor and the Pilot. And unfortunately, this book has got fading on the spine, and that happens when the book is in a bookshelf. There's other books next to it. The sun has hit it over a long period of time. The sun fades the spine and doesn't fade from here on in because this part was protected by another book. This book has some value on Amazon. The Inventor and the Pilot. It's written by Dorothy Varian. Dorothy was married to one of these brothers. One of them went to Stanford, was a physicist, was an inventor. The other one was a pilot. And these guys helped make radar for the sky to see, planes and all that fun stuff. Helped. Their inventions, I think, helped with the Battle of Britain and all that. Interesting thing about this book, and I listed on eBay because it has... Sorry, got to be careful. She's written in it. And it's not an inscription. It's not to a person like, hey, best wishes, thanks for whatever. It says some memories of Russ and Sig and of the early days of Varian Associates. Dorothy Varian, October 1983. So this book does sell on its own, but with the inscription, I'll put it over here, with the inscription, it will do better on eBay. So that's why I listed it. Again, unfortunately, don't know if you could see it. You can definitely see it more on the back. See this line? Sun damage. This is Vincent Price Cookbook. Yes, Vincent and Mary Price. They were sort of well-known, besides being celebrities. They hosted a lot of parties. They're socialites, that's the word I was looking for. And this book has a lot of recipes, some pictures in it. Nice thing I haven't seen is it does have a bookmark that's for the book. It says A Treasury of Great Recipes. That's the name of the book, and that's the name on the bookmark. I've seen other copies for sale. I think I listed this one for $18 or $19 because of the sun damage. I think a true fan might purchase it even with that. It does kind of meld in with the salmon color, but we'll see. So I've priced it accordingly. I don't, some people will list something for an outrageous price when it's an old book and it's all mangled up and the binding is falling apart. And I don't do that. I price it accordingly. This next one, this is what I was talking about. This is a book on Richard Nixon. And I've had this book in my death pile. I've had it for a year. It's one of those things, I don't know what to do with it. It has this letter, and unfortunately this letter's got staining on it, and it's always had that. Had it before I got it. I remember pulling this out once reading it, and I'll just read you a little bit. It says, I'm sure you will understand that it's not usually possible for us to comment on the suggestions we receive or to indicate whether proposals made by private individuals outside of government have been adopted. So it's from this gentleman. He wrote into Nixon saying, hey, I got this great idea. I think you should do X, Y, and Z. And I saw that with the book. And it's like, oh, it's a Nixon book. Okay. It comes in a slipcase. And, then I pulled it out and I realized the book it's a little rough. There's, on the back, I don't know if you can see it too well, it's kind of got this crease. And I was like, okay, it's got the letter, it's got the slipcase. I'm going through. I see this. And it's got this name, and I'm like, oh, okay, great. They photocopied Richard Nixon's name. Cool. And then I look up above, and it says, this copy has been signed by the author. So it's not, and then I was like, what? Signed, really? And then I turn the page, and I look, and I can kind of see the ink in a couple places bleeding through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't printed. Richard Nixon actually signed this. Now, however you feel about Sly Nixon, or Tricky Dicky, as he's been called, this is a signed book by a former president of the United States who's now no longer with us. So this has some additional value. We have a stained letter, which isn't the best, but all total, all of this adds a little value. So I have to do some further research to figure out what I'm going to do with this, how much I'm going to list it for, and all of that. But I had this in the garage for a year, not realizing it was signed. It was in that pile. Well, I need to research and go through and look at it. I pulled it out a couple days ago. I was like, oh wow, okay, I better get on this because it's worth something. Now, another book that I've got, there's another gentleman that does rare and antiquarian books, and he's got, I forget his name. I stumble across his videos on the feed every once in a while on YouTube, and this is the Exhausted Concordance of the Bible. And I remember once he said, anytime you see an old concordance of the Bible, get it. This is James Strong. This concordance, it was originally compiled in 1890. This is the 9th printing from 1930. I did the research on the comps on eBay, and there was one from, I think, 1945 that sold for $80. So I think I listed this one for $125. The original one from 1890 is selling in the 200s. So I figured I'll list it for $125. Maybe I'll get an offer. I'll probably take anything from $100 on up. Concordance of the Bible, from what I understand, it lists all the occurrences of various things in the Bible. So somebody turns into a pillar of salt, you can look up pillar of salt, and it'll tell you, New Testament, Old Testament, which book, chapter, verse, all that. And I was thinking about it, we used to say, oh, back when we were young, you're such a Dorcas, man. It's kind of like, oh, you're a doofus, you're a Dorcas. And then I learned, someone's like, I think Dorcas is a name from the Bible. And I found out, yes, Dorcas is, I think, was a woman that was very compassionate and very sympathetic. And, you could look up Dorcas and find out what Dorcas's story is in the Bible. And that's what the concordance is all about. So this one, originally written in 1890, this is the 1930 version, but it's almost 100 years old. It's like, this other one, I like a lot. Excuse me here, I'm going to put this in a safe place. This is Complete Poems by Carl Sandburg. Carl Sandburg won 3 Pulitzer Awards, 2 for songs and 1 for fiction. He wrote a 6-volume Abraham Lincoln biography, not autobiography. It's not about him, it's about Lincoln. It's a 6-book set, 2 parts. One part's got 4 books, the other part's got 2. I've sold sort of 2.5 copies. I've sold the complete set twice, and when I first got the set, I sold the 4 Lincolns together, and I didn't realize that there were 2 more books, and I sold the 4 together, and then I just found actually the other 2 about a week ago, and I'm like, oh, I remember 5 years ago when I sold this, and then I realized that there were 2 other books to the set. Well, I found the other 2 books after 5 years, I guess. I've had them for that long. Carl Sandburg also wrote a lot of poetry. He wrote these old folk, I don't know if he wrote them, but he compiled some folk songbooks. So we'd have the sheet music, and you could buy these and learn, "O Susanna" or "Go Tell Aunt Rhody that the old Yankees is dead," what have you. It's got this famous poet about the fog creeps in on little cat feet, which I think is awesome. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. We get fog. So I was a creative writing major in college. I can appreciate Carl Sandburg. We have the Complete Poems, and we turn the page, and what do we see? That is Carl Sandburg's signature. Yes, his book of poems has been signed. This has value, I think, anywhere from like $250 to $500. Seriously, this book's in pretty good shape. It is a little beat up. I don't even know what year it's from. I'll tell you. Complete Poets, first edition, signed in here. Okay, I got it at an estate sale clean out. They had probably looked on AbeBooks and said signed, and they have 75 to 100. I think it's more. We'll see though. Maybe I only get 75 to 100. But I've seen examples of his signature, and it's just been on sheets, not books like poetry books, but a letter or a broad, what they call a broadsheet, which is like something that's got like a little bit of artwork and a poem printed on it, and he signed it. But this is his complete book of poems from first edition. From there you have it. It says in the copyright, what does it say here? It said new section, copyright 34, and then 38, 40, 41, and 50. The other sections, the Chicago poems, Cornhuskers, Smoke and Steel, and those are copyright different. But I think this whole collection together, first edition, I'm happy. I like the idea of Carl Sandburg, sort of overall writer guy. Won the Pulitzer, music books, poetry, biographies. There's some value here, and I've got to do some research to figure it out, because I like giving people value. As I've mentioned, I think it's important, but I don't want to shortchange myself, you know. If this is $500, I don't want to offer it for $100. You know, there's nothing worse than listing it and then it sells in 5 minutes, and you're like, I probably should have sold it for a little more. So we'll do some research. We'll see what's what. I might have to go to AbeBooks and some other sites and see what's going on. The gentleman who I mentioned who said get the concordance might do some research. He might be able to sell it for more. He does a 50-50 split with some people. So we'll see what's what, and we'll go from there. So covered a lot, covered what I listed, covered what I'm going to list, covered what's sold, covered about dealing with people that want to take advantage of you. Hey, you know, a lot of people are leaving eBay. They're claiming that they can't make money. Oh, I'm glad I covered this point. When I was talking about books and what should sell, I watch other YouTubers. I think it's important. And one of the people I watch is Mel from Back from Burnout. Mel is a woman in Australia. She just does books primarily. Sells them on eBay in Australia. And I had mentioned how she does her, was doing the Monday video. But I asked her, I'm like, how many books do you have? And she says 6,200. And did I go over this? I feel deja vu. Sometimes I rehearse the videos. Anyway, she was doing about 100 packages that day for the weekend. And on average, you should be selling 1% of what you have listed. So if you want to sell more, list more. So if I did cover this, it's a great time to reiterate. If you want to sell more, list more, but list good items. You want to be aware of listing the, Titanic VHS set that you make 88 cents profit on, because you're not going to be able to support yourself if that's what you do. Now, I got that for free. I didn't pay anything for it. It's a good lesson to learn. In the future, I will learn that if I'm selling something that cheap, I have to make sure that I'm not the one paying postage. But hey, you live, you learn, you make a video, and hopefully you guys like it.